afternoon. The Senate Committee on Ways and Means and the House Committee on Finance will come to order. This afternoon we have Department of Agriculture, followed by University of Hawaii. Chair Enright, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair Iggy, members of the Committee on Ways and Means, Chair Luke, committee members of Finance, thank you for this opportunity to give testimony. If I could at this time, Chairs, I would like to introduce some of the staff members I have here today to assist me in giving testimony in this briefing. From animal industry, I have Dr. Isaac Maeda. Dr. Maeda. And from Ag Loan, I have Dean Matsukawa, the administrator for Ag Loan. Thank you. From Agricultural Resource Management, I have Administrator Brian Cow. From Quality Assurance Division, I've got Jerry Kahana. From Administrative Services, I have Keith Aragaki. From Agricultural Development, I have Sharon Hurd. And from Hawaii Agricultural Statistics Service, I have Mark Hudson. And from ADC, I have James Nakatani. The mission statement for the Hawaii Department of Agriculture: to further expand the role of Hawaii's agricultural industry to benefit the well-being of our island society by diversifying the economy, protecting resources important for agricultural production, and gaining greater self-sufficiency in food and renewable energy production. Some of the department's recent accomplishments with land resources: 1,207 acres acquired by the Agribusiness Development Corporation through the purchase of Galbraith State lands are currently being prepared to be put into agricultural production. Application for leases are being reviewed with a preference given for food producers. The board of ADC, working closely with E.D. Nakatani, have awarded over 500 acres of the land at Galbraith to producers and will be starting production on that land shortly. The Important Agricultural Lands designation, which ensures lands will remain in agriculture in perpetuity, is now protecting over 101,000 acres of prime agricultural land. The department is currently actively managing 13,565 acres, serving 336 tenants through its agricultural park and non-agricultural park programs. Assistance to farmers. Since the start of the Abercrombie administration, the State Agricultural Loan Division has approved 57 loans totaling $9,267,836. New farmer loans totaled $972,000 and were made to a wide variety of farm operations. The Hawaii Department of Agriculture, in partnership with the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations and the Department of Hawaiian Homes, supported the Veteran Homesteader to Farmer program, part of the Waimea Nui Regional Community Development Initiative. The program has provided successful farmer mentor to veterans and homesteaders interested in becoming farmers. 15 farmers have already graduated from this program, and another 15 are currently enrolled, providing new farmers to expand the agricultural workforce. Water resources. 10 contracts are actively being carried out, resulting in $26 million in projects to improve the various irrigation systems vital to improving access to water and agriculture endeavors. Market development. The promotion of local products moved to the television, where 30-second spots were shown during the University of Hawaii and local high school sports telecasts. Hawaii farmers were featured in the commercials, promoting their product and advancing our Eat Local program. Budget requests. The supplemental budget requests were formulated to continue the roads towards an integrated 21st century agricultural economy by providing land, capital, infrastructure, markets, and the necessary tool that local agriculturalists need to achieve success. Significant adjustments include 8 additional positions and revolving funds for pesticide program, $2 million in general funds in FY15 to supplement agricultural loan revolving fund. $3.5 million in general obligation bonds in FY15 for the Waimea Homestead Community Agricultural Park. $40 million in general obligation bonds in FY15 for the purchase of agricultural lands in central Oahu from Dole. And $1 million in general funds in FY15 to establish the Agricultural Development and Food Security Program. The department plans to mount an advertising campaign to educate the public and create a clear narrative of agriculture in Hawaii. Thank you, and welcome all questions at this time.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Representative Onishi.
Thank you, Director. I do have some questions regarding your testimony. In looking at your presentation, so you're requesting 8 new positions for pesticide.
That's correct, Representative.
But at the same time, you're moving the existing 8 into general fund funding instead of the revolving fund?
Yes, if I can explain. The initial request was to take all of the pesticide program positions and put them in general funds. We requested 11 positions in our request, and were given 8. But the monies, the current positions, which are on the special fund, were general funded, the existing positions, and the new positions that are coming, would come online if we were granted them, would be revolving funds. It was accounting from BNF. It wasn't per our request, Representative.
Okay, the 8 new positions.
Yes.
What would be the purpose of the 8 when you? Are those 8 existing already filled?
They no, is the short answer. 5 of the new positions would be for inspector positions. 2 of them on Oahu, 1 on Hawaii, 1 on Maui, 1 on Kauai. And 2 positions would be education and certification, and that would be 1 on Maui and 1 on Kauai. And then there would be a caseworker that would assist in doing all the work that comes in from the inspections.
Okay, but the existing positions are all filled?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, Chair, I have another. Okay, the Waimea Homestead Community Ag Park, is that DHHL land?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. The Molokai irrigation system, the purchase of equipment, what is the purpose?
The equipment that services the MIS system, their tractors, their trucks, are all in very poor shape. And so we're looking to upgrade the equipment that they have over there, Representative.
So it's not to address the costs of the pumping?
No.
The water pumping? So, okay. I guess my concern is that in talking to the farmers of Molokai or people from Molokai, they're concerned with the amount of water available. And is that amount of water based upon the pumps that are there, or is there additional capacity that can be provided from those pumps?
It's, I'd take a step back. There's additional capacity in the aquifer below Koalapu, so we could develop additional resources on Molokai for agriculture. But if I could at this time, I'd bring up Brian Cow to see if he could answer that clearly.
Brian Cow, Ag Research Management Administrator. The sources that we currently have developed are more or less at their capacity. We are at, unfortunately, the mercy of the rain. It was developed as a surface water catchment system with the pumps primarily serving as backup. Unfortunately, the rain patterns seem to have changed over the past 10 years, and we are starting to rely more on the pumps. So the system itself is more or less at capacity right now.
Capacity in terms of the equipment that's available, because Chair just mentioned that there's additional capacity from the aquifer that could be used.
Representative, the waters that are currently flowing into the MIS system aren't coming from that aquifer, and I was just qualifying that there are additional water resources on Molokai that we can develop.
Okay, thank you. One final question, Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, you have $1 million in general funds to establish the Agricultural Development and Food Security Program. So you have already developed a marketing plan, and what would be the duration and staffing needed, and would there be additional future funds required for this program?
The program, as it's currently envisioned by the Office of the Chair, is a program that would start as soon as possible to try to define the narrative about agriculture in Hawaii, and would run for several years or longer. And it would be done in conjunction with the different commodity groups around the state with whom I've been having conversations. And it's basically to give a face to agriculture at this time.
Okay, so the $1 million is going to cover just this upcoming fiscal year.
As I understand it, yes.
What would be the additional costs in future years projected?
The concept is come in with this chair, Rep. So we're currently putting together the program, but I wanted it to start as soon as possible, given the current environment in the state concerning agricultural issues.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes. Senator Nishihara.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have a question. On the biosecurity facility and projects, could you give an update of where it is now and why? For biosecurity, I guess there was $5.5 million, and the barrel tax, I guess, was 1.8. Were any of these expended as they were expected to be expended last year? And why or why not?
I'd have to get back to you. I don't have a clear answer on that, and I don't have staff I believe I could turn to for that answer, Senator.
So you can maybe get that information to the committee later?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Thielen.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Scott. Welcome.
Thank you, Senator.
I'm a little confused by this, the putting a face on agriculture. And, when I was reading this, my understanding in speaking with the outlets that sell local products like Foodland, Whole Foods, even the ones like, Burger King, Taco Bell that are buying for that there is a far greater demand for locally grown products than we have a supply. So I guess a question I have in looking at this is, why the $1 million to put a face on agriculture when we have such a high demand for it already? I'm not real clear what it means to put a face on agriculture. So if you could explain that a little bit more,
Certainly.
What that would go for. And then I guess the follow-up question I have is kind of what I don't see in the budget priorities is ways that the Department of Agriculture would be working to get more farmers more quickly onto the lands that you folks manage. So I do see like 3 new agricultural outreach positions to help other departments. But we know like in Waimanalo and in other areas, there's a lot of lands DOA manages as well as the other departments that are the time it takes from the board saying we want to lease these lands to when a farmer actually can walk onto the lands is extraordinarily long. And we've had some tenants walk during that process, in part because getting a soil and water conservation plan takes so long because there's not the technical expertise for the farmers. So we have a couple parcels in Waimanalo that have been vacant for, well, I think in one, in excess of a decade now, and it's overgrown, and whoever eventually goes in there is going to have a lot of work to bring it back. And I know there's other parcels as well. So I guess what I'm not seeing in here is in that effort to get more farming, what's going to be done within the department to expedite that process and assist farmers to get into production? It seems to be focused more on the helping build demand.
Correct.
As opposed to helping to get supply going. So if you could address that second aspect too. Thank you.
Certainly. Well, first, Senator, the legislative initiatives here, the supplemental budget asks, are some things that I inherited from the past chair. Working with ADC, the Agribusiness Development Corporation, and the board there, we've been working on developing new farmer programs. And I believe in our next session, you'll see additional monies being asked to help us develop additional programs for growing farmers. That said, we are, along with the Veterans to Farmers that's ongoing on the Big Island, there's one starting up on Kauai. The department is working with Gateway Hawaii to do startups on state lands on the Hamakua coast. And so we are working around the state to try to develop those new agriculturalists. But that said, your point's well taken. There's more work that can be done, and we will be doing it. The first part, the $1 million for essentially a series of public service announcements that would start and continue. And that's to create a narrative for agriculture in the state. You know, in the conversations that I've had with the different commodity groups around the state, the climate that we have, given the issues on pesticide usage and GMOs, but also demand for locally produced crops, there's a general feeling in the agricultural community that we have a story to tell that we haven't told. And, you know, consistent with the editorial in last Saturday's Star Advertiser, the leadership role belongs with the Department of Agriculture. And we're being looked to step forward to help to develop that narrative and be that leader for the agricultural community. There's a feeling, and Alan Gottlieb's op-ed in today's paper basically tells the story that we don't have a face. Agriculture is not understood by the general public. And that program, Senator, would be part of our Eat Local, It Matters campaign. It would be creating demand. The Ulu Pono initiative study that was done, that was put out in December of 2011, demonstrate that there's a demand, but it also demonstrates that it comes a part of a certain price point. So I think there's work for us to do to develop additional demand, and this program, as understood by the department, would help to do that also. I hope that answers your questions.
Thank you. Representative Tokioka.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Scott, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Representative.
I also wanted to acknowledge and thank you for all your work you've been doing and are doing on Kauai regarding the Good Neighbor program. And the 8 positions that you've put in the budget from the revolving funds of the pesticide funds program.
Yes.
So how soon do you think you could get those positions hired if the budget is approved?
Very good question, Representative. You know, we have 120 open positions inside of the department now, which is an issue that is actively discussed with many on the 2 committees. So we would need to prioritize pesticides, and the pesticide issues around the state are such that we would prioritize that, and with our planned quarantine inspectors and specialists, it would be moved to the top. And it would be fast-tracked, Representative.
Thank you. Because I think, some people, maybe most people in this room know about the bill that the County Council on Kauai passed, but right now there's a lawsuit. And so, for the state, I think what you're doing is proactive and looking at, the listing of the restricted use pesticides and following up, as the governor said, with the volunteer program with the additional positions. So thank you for doing that. Other departments that have come in, I've asked a question about fire ants. And, some people have had different responsibilities regarding that. And, everyone said that they're going to be working together with your department, the Invasive Species Council. In your mind, right now they are on the Big Island, and I'm understanding there's some colonies on Maui as well. Is that accurate?
Yes, and also Oahu.
Okay. Oahu, is that recently, or?
Yes, well, the mode of transport was hapu, so it's not propagated material, so it fell into a crack in our quarantine efforts because it's not part of the mission of the Department of Agriculture because it's not propagated. And there wasn't anyone else looking actively. So when it was found in garden departments, it was quarantined and isolated and destroyed, but we at the department aren't sure for how long infected hapu was traveling around the state. So it could have been taken to numerous locations. We're doing the work of trying to identify that now.
Yeah. So specifically in the budget, there wasn't anything specific to the fire ant problem. If we were to appropriate something, Senator English, who is on the Invasive Species Council, was talking about some of the miscommunications interdepartment-wise. So if we did appropriate money in your mind, and we won't hold this to you, but we need to have an understanding of what it would cost. What do you think it would cost your department to be able to better control the fire ant situation?
I don't know that I could give a clear and concise answer to that, Representative. I will bring up my administrator for plant industry and put him on the spot because that's who will be put on the spot later. So if I could bring up Neil Reimer. You're welcome.
And Scott, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I think everybody knows how important this issue is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir. Excellent questions. I'm trying to think of the best way to approach an answer to that. To start off with, LFA, the little fire ant, has been widespread throughout the east side of Big Island, has then spread over to Kona side. And it was from hapu stock that it had spread from the Kona side, or from Hilo side over to Oahu, as well as to Maui. There's also a small population on Kauai too, but that was from another source. The problem with little fire ant is it does not move by one mode at all. There's a lot of different methods for it to move. With our legislative and our authorities that we have, we're allowed to look at, and we're mandated to be looking at propagated material to protect agriculture. The problem is this ant can move on just about anything. What had happened in this case, it moved on hapu logs. It's been found in automobiles. It's been found in other non-propagated material as well. As Chair Enright mentioned or stated, the hapu logs we didn't have the mandate to check those, so we were not looking at those. So it's hard to come up with an answer of how to prevent that when we don't have the authorities to be looking at all the possible modes of movement. It'd be a lot easier if it had a single host or certain type of host. For example, we have a new pest right now with the coconut rhinoceros beetle, which you're probably well aware of as well. That could also be very devastating to the state. It attacks palms, and particularly coconut palms. And with that, we have authorities to be inspecting and quarantining that. It's a more manageable problem than the little fire ant is. So what we've been doing is, with little fire ant in the past, have been inspecting propagative material that could be moving on, for example, in the nursery industry. When we do find infestations like we've now found on Oahu and Maui, we respond to those as rapidly as we can and then go in, stopping the movement of those products we find it on, and go into a control mode. That's where we are on Oahu right now. We've done the investigations to find out where the ant has been found. We've looked at how it got onto the island. We've done trace forwards to see where it's gone and trace backs to see where it came from. Based on all that information, we're following up on that and doing control and management of those populations. Same thing on Maui. It came into Maui originally on 2 hardware stores or garden shops, was spread out from there, and from what we've been able to do, and by able I mean from what we have the authority to do, we've then followed up on those, gone out to those sites and treated them, and worked in conjunction with other agencies and other NGOs as well to do that. Your question was how much money?
Correct.
I know it's kind of roundabout, but the problem is there's not a clear answer on this. So the only
Just
way
for your department, because I know you cannot speak for the Invasive Species Council, but they put $1 million in additional money in their budget. I don't know if that's enough because they took a cut from the $5 million and now they're back $1 million more. But I'm sure legislators from all of the islands would be interested to know the number and work for a bill that would increase the number if it's not in the budget right now, and I don't see it in the budget. I know you have inspectors and the Invasive Species Council has extra money, but specifically for this, if we don't address it, then it may be a statewide outbreak, and I don't think anybody wants that. So I guess if you're not clear on the number, maybe you can work with the Invasive Species Council and others to come up with a number as the bill gets circulated and hopefully moves to the legislature.
Representative, we'll get back to you shortly with a number that we think we can begin with to get a program together.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Senator Nishihara.
Thank you, Chair. You know, last year we had quite a bit of discussion about Department of Ag needed to have hire more inspectors, right? Of those allocated positions that were requested, were they all filled by the end of this year? The Ag inspectors?
No, is the short answer, Senator.
How many of them are still unfilled?
Just inspectors or all the, because we have specialist positions who are also inspectors inside of PQ. And if I could, just as background, I believe the number is somewhere close to 10, but I can check with Administrator Reimer in a minute. We have a new branch manager at Plant Quarantine, and we're initiating a new strategic plan for Plant Quarantine to move forward into the next generation. We're not sure that we can't allot manpower differently in terms of inspectors. We can bring in technicians that can do everything but sign off on the work and potentially beef up at a lower cost the inspector positions. One of the problems with filling the inspectors' positions is we couldn't find viable candidates. The educational requirements were such that they weren't being hit by the university when we started to fill them. Now, we've done outreach to CTAR and to the University of Hawaii at Hilo, and they're responding, but it was part of the problem in filling those positions. It was easy to cut them, but putting the individuals back into the place in these highly technical positions proved difficult. We're fast-tracking it, right, with an attempt with our limited, human resource department. We currently have 2 people in our HR department, and I think it's 125 open positions. So we have a bottleneck there. They get the highest priority, Senator, but we're still lacking in our ability to fill the positions.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Stenright.
Thank you. Any other questions, Senator Chan Oakland?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Chair Enright.
Thank you, Senator.
I wanted to know if anyone within your department is working closely with the Department of Education to try and coordinate I guess, the farmers locally to respond well to the Department of Education's need for fresh produce. I don't know if there's anyone that really is looking at that, and what I'm hearing is we cannot locally respond to their needs, but I think if we coordinated ourselves statewide, we would be able to in terms of school lunches and breakfasts.
Right. The answer to your question is no, there isn't anybody currently doing that. But there is an ask for 3 outreach positions. That is potentially what these outreach positions would be doing. That and working with on FSMA issues, the Food Safety Modernization Act, as it comes into being. But that's what we're looking for, is that outreach capability.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Sure.
Representative Morikawa.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, Representative.
Of course, you know, I come from the district where the biotech industry is.
Yes.
And for me, I value their presence because in all the years that I've lived in Waimea, I was coming off of Kokei, and the whole area from Waimea to Kamakani and beyond is just green because we've had a lot of rain. But it's green, it's well kept. I like what I see. However, there is a fear out there about the industry, pesticide use, and what have you. Obviously, it's a communication problem. The public needs to know that they're safe, if they are safe. And so it's not just your agency that we would be looking at for help and getting the message out, but it would be also the Department of Health. So I would want to know, can you guys work together as state government to make sure you can get the message out to people that your presence is there, that we've tested things and we find nothing wrong. We go out there to see that the proper use of pesticides is happening. And also, it's not just regulated, it's unregulated, right? All pesticide use. So I just want to know if you can do that with the Department of Health.
The short answer, Representative, is yes. I met with Acting Director Gary Gill of Department of Health yesterday to talk about studies that were needed on the west side of Kauai. We worked together in releasing the study from the University of Hawaii Cancer Research Center on cancers on Kauai that showed that there was no increase, there was decrease consistent with state and national trends of all forms of cancer except melanoma. And that helped relieve some of the stress of individuals on the west side that were concerned with some of the disinformation that was being put out there that concern them. We'll do the same thing. There's an ask from the Department of Agriculture to the Department of Health to do the same thing on birth defects. We'll be testing the air, we'll be testing the water, we'll continue to test to demonstrate to the citizens on the west side of Kauai that they're safe. During sugar and pineapple, we sprayed 10 times more pesticides than we do now, and what we spray is less toxic and less pervasive. And the individuals, the companies that are spraying it, spray pesticides in this director's estimation better than anybody ever has in this state. So, but we will be working with the Department of Health closely.
And I sincerely thank you for that response.
Very welcome, Representative.
Thank you, Representative Ward.
Thank you, Chair. I have two quick questions. Going back to the idea of inspection or inspectors, will you be collaborating with the Dept people who have just been with Alaska and Oregon, having Hawaii designated as one of the 6 test sites for UAV, which can do red ants and coqui frog and other kinds of surveillance at a very little cost and very effective data collection?
Yes, Representative. You know, the department's aware of the technology that's about to come into play for testing for invasive species and for diseases. We're about to enter into the 21st century for plant and animal quarantine.
If any department can benefit, and the public benefit from it the most, it's you guys. Good. Second question is, will the department have a position on GMOs? You kind of snuck up on one a little bit earlier, but we're going to obviously hear that bill Will there be a position, although not be one?
The Hawaii Department of Agriculture's position on biotechnology and its products is that we work with our federal partners, and the state will never have the resources to do the testing to be able to demonstrate whether a crop is safe to crop, or say a pesticide is safe to spray according to the label. We go back and we rely on our federal partners to tell us what's safe. Now, that's what all 50 states in the United States do, and that's what we do. When it's deemed safe by our federal partner, we support all agriculture, so we'll support cropping in that fashion. We support a right to farm, Representative.
Thank you for that frank answer. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Representative Onishi.
Thank you, Chair. I had one question, clarification in regards to the $40 million for the Central Oahu lands. Is that 220,000 acres or 22,000 acres?
22,000
okay.
acres.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Chair Ige?
Scott, I just had a kind of general question. Can you just tell me how much ag land the department oversees, and then how much is actually leased, and then how much is actually in production?
Currently, the department has 13,565 acres. With our partner with ADC, we have 8% of the arable land in the state. And Chair, one of the reasons for those outreach positions was so we could support some of the other large landowners as they go to crop their lands.
Okay. So how much of the 13,000 acres is leased, and then how much is actually in active farming or production?
I'm turning towards Brian Cow, my administrator for agricultural resource management.
I don't have the exact leased acreage numbers. I would estimate, though, in the high 90% of our lands are actually leased. We do have, unfortunately, some pockets where there are persistent vacancies. Pohoa Ag Park, for one. The lands are not that great, but we are continually advertising to see if there is interest in these places like that. Also, we do encourage as much as possible for the full development of our agricultural lands. Our full development, I'm guessing, is probably more along the lines of maybe 70%. And again, we do have a lot of new farmers that come on, and we do work with them to get their conservation plans going and their businesses going.
Okay, thank you. If you can just get the numbers and provide that to the committees, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Let me follow up on that.
Representative Ward.
In the heyday of ag, vis-a-vis pineapple and sugar, what were the number of eggs under cultivation then versus now?
The number of acreage?
Acres under cultivation, egg and sugar and
Turning
pineapple.
to Mark Hudson. Mark, can you help us with that question?
I want to see how much we've caught up by the contemporary ag promotion that we do.
My name is Mark Hudson, a state statistician. With data, you always have to be careful how you approach and what you look at and keep it in context. But I'd say the amount of arable land, or what we classified as cropland, I think the best source, I think what you're looking for is a trend. And I think the best trend would be the Census of Agriculture, which we do every 5 years. The population census is done every 10 years. But I think to get that type of number, if you're looking for like total cropland or harvested cropland like that, and we can sure get, a trend really tells more of the story. But our 2012 Census of Agriculture will be out later this year. But we can provide, let's say, maybe 4 or 5.
Do you have the dollar amount, if not the acreage?
Dollar
the value of ag today versus the value of ag, sugar and pineapple. Let me put it this way. I heard, there's two things I've heard. One is that all of the ag lands are growing trees, or let's say growing weeds and houses. But the dollar amount of what we've got in ag is actually equal to or exceeding what we did with sugar and pineapple. So is it we still have a lot of empty ag lands, but we're still making more money on what we're doing in terms of intense agriculture?
I think we can get, what we can get there, Representative. We can get a dollar value per acre, but that's dollar value. But what you can do, we can take the farm gate value and we can divide it by the number of, say, acres of cropland. We can give you all kinds of scenarios that you could look at, and it might show the same trends or different trends, but I think if we get 4 or 5 census of agriculture's data, I think that'll give you a grasp of where we're at, and I think it's what that might find what you're looking for. If not, we'll come back and we'll reshuffle the deck and look at it a different way.
Okay, good, thank you. We're looking for an ag renaissance, and we need some numbers to kind of anchor it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Senator Dela Cruz.
Chair, if you can just clarify, the $40 million is not for all 22,000 acres.
That's correct. Sorry I didn't make that clarification, Senator. It was just a placeholder. There's a lot of creative work going on to secure the Dole lands, including some land swapped. But Dole is actively looking to work with the state so that we can secure those agricultural lands. And the administration is very active in doing that also.
Okay, any other questions? If not, thank you.
Chair, thank you. Chair Iggy, thank you. Committee members, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next up, we'll take the University of Hawaii.